Your worth isn't on a spectrum. It's not you are more worthy if you look a certain way, you play a sport at that level, you get straight A's. That is not your worth. It's irrelevant. Your worth is just for breathing. Do you ever feel like you can't receive love unless you do something? The way you look, what you do, maybe how much money you have, maybe how academic you are, how sporty you are. If that is you, this episode is for you, because in today's episode on Trauma and Narcissism Redefined, I'm going to be talking about transactional love and narcissistic abuse. Hi everybody, my name is Caroline Strawson and I'm a trauma therapist and coach specialising in the physiology, the somatic side of that relationship abuse, like narcissistic abuse, domestic abuse, coercive control. Now I'm really excited because we're on our 2-week countdown to the relaunch of my podcast. So remember, on Tuesday the 8th of April, this will no longer be called Trauma and Narcissism Redefined. This podcast will be renamed to No Visible Bruises, Survivor Stories of Narcissistic Abuse, Domestic Abuse and Coercive Control. And they're going to be 50-minute, hour-long episodes where I am working with a survivor like yourself, sharing their story, asking me questions even, but also it's really a therapy session. It's how I work with my clients around using modalities like somatic experiencing, breath work, EMDR, internal family systems, so a lot of parts work. And you'll just see some of the light bulb moments that start to happen. Now, I recorded this week my very first 3 sessions with, well, I can only describe them as 3 incredible people. I also have to say, if you're listening to this and you hear some drilling, I'm actually at my offices. The new podcast is going to be recorded in a snazzy podcast studio because you can watch it as well as listen to it. And they're doing so much work upstairs. And actually, it really highlighted, I sent them an email this morning, really setting some boundaries. And if you'd have asked me to do that 10 years ago, I'd have been quaking in my boots. But I was polite, but I was firm about the amount of noise I keep having upstairs in my offices. Very accommodating, but there is a line, Anyway, back to the podcast. So I've just interviewed 3 incredible women. Now, that doesn't mean it'll only be women, by the way, but we've only had primarily women apply to be guests on my podcast. So if you're a guy, maybe you're part of the LGBTQ plus queer community, then please apply. I would love to interview you on my podcast with your experiences around narcissistic abuse as well. And I'll pop that link in the show notes for you too. So 3 brand new episodes coming up from Tuesday, the 8th of April. The first one's very much around chronic illness and how that manifests because of narcissistic abuse. The second one, wow, well, that was more a story-based one. And it was, I mean, it should be a Netflix film, like literally it involves bigamy. And then the third one was about addiction, not addiction where the narcissist is addicted, but the survivor who becomes addicted to drugs to numb out that pain. So that's only the first 3. They were brilliant. We've had tears, we've had laughter, and you'll be able to see kind of how sort of a mini session would work with myself, because I always bring things back to physiology. What are you feeling in your body with that? Because we disconnect very often when we've experienced abuse because it's too painful to feel those emotions in our body. So I think you're going to love it. I really hope you'll love it. I really hope you will carry on supporting me. I know when I used to do some of these in my free and private Facebook community group that everybody loved them because everyone took something from them, even if it wasn't their experience in that moment particularly. And also some of the stuff that I was saying, and it was really helpful. So, I've got a really good feeling about this, but I would really love you to continue to support me. And we'll be having big celebrations on Tuesday, the 8th of April as well. So back to today's episode, transactional love. This for me was really important for me to recognize because I was one of those, when you hear that word trauma, I would always say, I don't have trauma. I had a great childhood. And it doesn't mean I didn't, but it doesn't mean I necessarily had neglect or abuse as such. But there was definitely some emotional dysfunction, particularly from my father. That lack of emotional intelligence, not praising me, not saying that he loves me, all of those things. So for me, my interpretation of my father not showing that wasn't, oh, hey, he had a bad childhood and he's not been taught how to do that and show love. I didn't know what child knows that. My interpretation of that was he's not showing that to me because of me. I'm not enough. I must do more, be more. So as a kid, I became this high achieving, people pleasing perfectionist. These were all of my protector parts that would come up in the hope that if I was perfect, if I was pleasing everybody and high achieving, then surely my father would say, oh, Caroline, I love you and I'm super proud of you. But it never came. But again, my interpretation of that was always I needed to do something. And I think this is a really key point about many of us that end up in these abusive relationships about transactional love. We don't learn that love is simply for being who we are. We learn that love comes by doing something. And very often that is usually, as a child, high achieving, getting good grades or being really, really good at sport. It might be I need to look a certain way, weigh a certain amount, have my hair a certain way, wear my makeup a certain way. It might be how sexy I am, how clever I am. All of these things, what I do, I clean the house, I do this, I do that, all of these things. We don't learn that someone could love us just for being who we are. What we learn is we can only try and even receive love, even if it's breadcrumbs, if we do something. So for me, whilst I didn't have this horrific childhood, certainly had a very transactional one from my father. He went out to work. He earned money. We had food. We were clothed. Now, my mum was highly codependent, so she was kind of the opposite in some respects of that because she got her worth from being a mother. So I felt that sense of responsibility to still be that child, so my mum had a sense of worth. But on the flip side, I was desperately trying to get love and attention and praise from my father. And we always have this standing joke in my family that I used to love, this is when I was very young, before I shot up in height and then I found sort of tennis and netball. I used to do gymnastics. And I used to do, you know what it's like as a kid. I used to do these little routines in the living room. And I'd had this routine. I remember I'd be like starting in the corner of the room, with your hands up at the start as the starting point, and my feet were there ready. And I'd prance around the living room for a couple of minutes, and then I'd wait for my dad to score me. Now, as adults, we used to joke about this in our family because my dad would never give me a 10, ever. It was always 9.99 recurring, like literally. Now, we used to laugh about this as adults. It was only when I started to learn all of this stuff and retrain that I thought, wow, that may seem really innocuous at the time and funny even, but it wasn't funny to me as a kid thinking, I've just done a really perfect routine then, and I'm not quite good enough. It's a 9.99 recurring. And that was reinforcing then the beliefs that I had about myself. Well, I am not good enough then. I thought it was good, but it clearly isn't. And I used to literally be in the living room sometimes going, right, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Because I was desperate for this 10. I was desperate for this praise and love from my father. Now, my dad wasn't deliberately doing that. My dad didn't even realize, and we've had conversations about it later on in life, actually, where, we kind of still joke about it, but my dad kind of eye rolls about it like, oh, that 9.99 as such. And I do think he kind of gets it a little bit now because I have tried to communicate and explain to him the effect that had on me. And that will have effects on all of us. As children, how other people behave around us, we're always looking for those stories and narratives about why they are doing that. And as children, we don't understand the dynamics of relationships, that maybe it's our parents carrying their own stuff and they're just incapable of doing that. They're not choosing to, they're just incapable. What we see and what we perceive and interpret is they're doing that because of me. I'm not good enough. I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. I don't matter. I'm not important. And what was really interesting, I was speaking at a inter-schools mental health conference yesterday, teaching all the stuff that I love to teach around the nervous system, around the brain, about different protector parts. And when I teach, we have these things called invisible trauma backpacks. So I have one of my companies called the Mental Wellbeing Company, where we teach people to become certified trauma informed coaches, and they get some tangible stuff to use in schools or workplaces as a visual. And one of these is an invisible trauma backpack. So I had a teacher up on stage and a student up on stage with these invisible trauma backpacks. And I had the teacher shouting at the student because she hadn't done her homework. I had the student looking down, being really apologetic. And then we looked in their backpacks because we were looking at, was the student's behavior causing the teacher's behavior? And was the teacher's behavior a reflection of the student? And it was such a powerful visual that it was like, well, actually, no one's behavior is a reflection of each other. It's just how heavy and what they've got in their invisible trauma backpacks. It was a really powerful vision. But what really struck me in the break time, I had a few, primarily of girls, I have to say, come up to me talking about how they were stuck in freeze, how they didn't know how to say no, that they were people pleasing, they had panic attacks, eating disorders, self-harm, anxiety. Some would be quiet and then explosive rage and anger, and then it would go back down. And I thought, God, this was me. This was me. And I'm 51 now and it's still happening. This is why I get really passionate about taking this stuff into schools. We learn that love needs to be transactional. And when we learn that, we are more likely to end up in narcissistic, abusive relationships, because a narcissist is going to want you to give, give, give. Because you're conditioned to give to receive love, you are like a magnet to a narcissist. So it's really important to recognize, do you know you deserve love simply for being you? Do you realize that? You know, I was saying to a lot of these kids that were coming up to me, you know what? And we did a bit of parts work. I did these like mini 5-6 minute kind of sessions with them, separating the part from who they are, that they're not an anxious person. This part is there for a reason. And they were so open. Parts work's phenomenal, I have to say. And they were so open to all of this. And then I said, you know what? If you're not this or that, does that make you worthless? And, you know, there was a few, I said, you know, your worth isn't on a spectrum. It's not you are more worthy if you look a certain way, you play a sport at that level, you get straight A's. That is not your worth. It's irrelevant. Your worth is just for breathing, just for being who you are. But it made me really sad to think of all these kids who don't feel like that. And again, no fault lightly because of their parents, because they're doing the best they can. And let's face it, it's really challenging out in the world right now. Everyone is trying to do the best that they can. But these young women were already learning that praise and love was transactional. And that's going to make them a magnet to these types of toxic relationships unknowingly from the parents' behavior, because they're probably just doing the best that they can and trying to protect their children very often, sometimes by saying things. But it was having an effect. So we have to be really mindful of our words as parents, and then really recognize as adults the relationships we're in. Are we receiving love just for being who we are? Or does it feel like we're receiving love only if we do something or make the other person feel a certain way? We become almost this server of others to make them feel better, but forget about ourselves. We just abandon that. So I wanted to do this podcast really to get you to check in. Check in if you're a parent with how you speak to your children. Don't praise them for getting 10 out of 10. Praise them for working hard just for being who they are. Don't make the result the reason for the praise. Don't make how they look the reason for the praise. All of these things matter, and these subtle differences in our communication can make all the difference to our next generation. And also check in with yourself. Do you have friends and those around you who love you? And it feels like they only love you because you play a role for them. It's time to check in with that. It's time to look at that, because you know what? You should have friends, family, romantic relationships where people love you just for being you. So I hope this has been really, really helpful. I wanted to share this because this was like light bulbs for me, because I realized, wow, all of my relationships were transactional. It was me doing something, so they acted a certain way so I could feel good enough. And I didn't realize that really a lot of my friendships and romantic relationships over the years had been based around that, me doing something to receive love. And I don't do that now. It means I have a lot smaller circle of friends, but it means that I'm able to hold boundaries. I'm able to speak my truth in a kind and compassionate way, but I'm not playing a role in somebody else's life to receive something back for myself. So always look at, am I behaving like this because I'm doing this because my intention is I need something from them. I need them to make me feel worthy. Because you know what? You are worthy just for being who you are. So take care, my friends. Remember, 14-day countdown to no visible bruises. Can't wait to share with you these interviews. Honestly, they are incredible. Look after yourselves. Know that I'm here. If you want to be a guest on my podcast, then do fill out that form below. And I can't wait to continue to help and support you in the future, because I get it. When there are no visible bruises, it can make it really challenging and very lonely. And I don't ever want you to feel alone or stuck, because this does not have to be a life sentence.